Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Monday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing today? I tell you what, it is a blistering hot day in Kentucky, and I work outside every day, and I'm telling you, it was terrible today. But anyway, you're in for a great show tonight. As you can tell, I'm by myself tonight, but that doesn't mean I don't have a special guest co-host coming on tonight. Miss Candace, unfortunately, she's stuck at work and she had some things that she's got to take care of. So she's taking the night off and getting that squared away, just like a good Marine would do, getting things squared away. But anyway, we do have a special guest co-host tonight. Let's bring up Mr. Brian Roof with Every Day's a Saturday USMC veteran.
Hey,
Mr. Brian, how are you, sir?
Hey, what's going on, brother? I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain. You know, it's trying to stay cool. It's blistering hot as heck here in Southern California too, man.
Oh, I guarantee it is smoking hot out there as well. So how was your day? How was your Monday?
Hey, man, it's one of those typical Mondays, I would call it, you know. Just one thing after another. Just got the, you know, like these vehicles, bro. I don't know. It's like they're like we got two vehicles and they like play tag team. Like, hey, hey, I'm gonna fuck up this week. No, I'm gonna do it, you know, and bro. So then I got maintenance problems with, you know, one vehicle. As soon as I get that one fixed, no kidding. The day we pick up my car, the Challenger, Dodge Challenger, out of the shop, the van goes down. Boom.
Oh,
same day, bro. Take it in. And the damage all said and done, $7,000. Transmissions shot. Yeah, just
holy cow.
Yeah.
Holy cow, man. Yeah,
so just eat that on a Monday.
The wife and I both have newer vehicles. Like mine's a 2021 and hers is a 22, or maybe mine's a 22 and hers is a 23. I don't remember. But they're newer vehicles, and I'm dreading for when they start going south on us, because they're, you know, hers is a Hyundai Palisade with all the bells and whistles. It's got like the heated seats.
And that's why I hate our van, dude. We have this, it's Odyssey or whatever. Electric doors, it's got two batteries on it, bro. One to operate the stuff inside the car and one to operate the car. I'm just like, never. And then that little battery goes out. It's just, dude, I don't know the way they make these vehicles anymore.
Yeah. They make them so hard. They make them so hard where you actually have to take them to a mechanic or the dealership and have them work on it. And I'm like, bro, give me the like 1978 Chevy Impala or the 1988 Escort GT, you know, something that's easy to work on. You know, I remember back in the day climbing up in the doghouse of a GMC Chevy pickup and working on an inline straight six because you got all that room up in there. Nowadays, you can't even do that, dude, at all. So,
yeah, and here in California, by 2035, they want everybody to have like electric cars here, dude. It's like,
Yeah,
We're going. Yeah, definitely not going to know how to fix any cars nowadays.
yeah, that is, dude. That is so crazy. What's up, Mr. Shannon Book? How are you,
Hey,
sir?
that guy, the
That
Devil
guy,
Doc, the
the
Devil
Devil
Doc.
Dog. So Shannon was just out at in Rolla, man,
Yeah, it
with
was.
Hero Stock.
I
I
was
wish I
watching that. I was watching a lot of it.
and he says, "How about them cyber trucks?" Yeah, I was watching a lot of it too from Donald Dunn with Veterans Voice Radio and Brandon Cooper. So I got to watch a lot of it. What's going on, Mr. Michael Bauer? Electric cars are the
Heck
wrong
yeah, they
decision.
are.
I would agree with you.
Especially here in California, where they can't even keep up with the grid right now. So
Yeah.
they're like, they want everybody to be plugged in.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. What's going on, Mr. David Durbin? Thank you for jumping. And thank all you guys that are out there that are veterans. Thank you for your service. We always want to say that out there. I know Mr. David Durbin, I was talking with Candace last night. He's a veteran, but he don't tell nobody he's a veteran. That's because he's a humble guy. So, Mr. David Durbin, keep doing what you're doing, sir, and we appreciate you. But no, man, you're in for a great show tonight, guys. We have Mr. John Dailey. And if you don't know this guy, you are in for a treat. So I'm going to see if I can copy this. Let's see if it'll let me copy it. There we go. I want to copy. Come on. So John Dailey is a legend in the Marine Corps. He won't say he's a legend, but I'm going to say he's a legend.
Legends don't say they're legends, but they are typically
That's right.
legends.
You are correct. So I just put it in chat, man. So John Dailey is a retired Marine Corps Master Sergeant and author of Tough, Rugged Bastards. In 2003, Dailey was handpicked to become the team leader for Detachment One, the first Marine Corps unit assigned to the U.S. Special Operations Command. Their battlefield success became the proof of concept for the formation of the Marine Special Operations Command, MARSOC. Dude, to be assigned to the first unit for MARSOC, dude, you have to be badass to even be handpicked to get there. So we're gonna
Founding fathers, bro. Sheesh.
Oh, I know, right? So yeah, it's crazy, man. I tell you, to be the number one, the founding father of MARSOC. Now I know there's, we had Marine Corps Recon, and then the Raiders were back in the day, and I know they disbanded them for a while, then they brought them back, or I don't remember how it all went down. And I think at one time, I think they might have been just West Coast. I can't remember. I know one of my guys that I work with at AT&T, he was a Raider when he was in. So I don't know, but we're going to find out, because we're going to have the man, the myth, the legend. Let's bring up Mr. John Dailey to the stage. Welcome.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming. Thanks for responding back. I know we got connected via Rich LaMonica with the Misfit Nation, and I watched his show when you were on. And I was like, yeah, I definitely want to have him on, because he's a Marine. He's an all-around badass. So do me a favor, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Certainly. The first thing I've been told that I have to say is that because I still work for MARSOC, so my opinions are my own, and they don't reflect anybody's policy or anybody's anybody else's opinions. So, like you said, my name's John Dailey. I'm in North Carolina right now, where it's also hot as balls. And I can sympathize with the car trouble. I've had my share of that recently. I joined the Marine Corps, born and raised in Virginia, West Virginia border area. Lived on both sides, but joined the Marine Corps, was on the first thing smoking after I graduated from high school, and had an incredible 21 year career. Started off in a sniper platoon, and then worked my way into Force Recon. I spent most of my career there. And then, as you mentioned, 2003, when the Detachment One was activated, I got asked to be a part of that, and that was a phenomenal experience. I moved out here from Camp Pendleton in 2006 when MARSOC activated and helped start up the schoolhouse and I still work there now.
So are you like an instructor for MARSOC or more on the logistics side?
So I'm the director of the training and education branch. So I kind of, which means I don't do a lot, right? But oversee our instructor training and the curriculum development, curriculum management for the courses that we run.
That's friggin' amazing.
Now,
So
when you joined the Marine Corps, did you ever see yourself going into, MARSOC and all that? I mean, were you always, pretty much gung-ho ready to go?
Yeah, I was. I lucked out in that the first recruiter that I had when I joined was had been a recon Marine, and so he kind of filled my head full of all the possibilities. On his wall he had pictures of jump school and free falling and diving and all these things, and so I really thought that's what the Marine Corps was all about. And when I joined, I realized that I didn't know how to swim as well as a recon Marine needs to. So that took me a little while to overcome that. But I was always my goal. And after I came in, and when I get into a sniper platoon, I kind of realized that there was Force Recon was kind of above that, and then obviously MARSOC continue to look for the next cool thing to do, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot of Marines go in and they have the assumption that you're recon. I know when I went in, like recon was the top dog in the Marine Corps at that time. In 97 to 01, recon was the top dog, and then the scout snipers. When I first joined, they had their own like company or battalion. I forget what it was. And then it got broke down where scout snipers were. There were scout sniper platoons in each headquarters of like 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. So, and then, of course, to go through a lot of the guys that went at recon went scout sniper like you did, and then from scout sniper into recon, and then they progressed from there going into MARSOC once MARSOC was formed. And that was one of those things. MARSOC was something we didn't hear about when I was in. It was always about recon and
Force Recon.
Yeah, Force Recon. And I had some buddies after I got out. He was from Camp Pendleton, and he's like, yeah, I was a Marine Raider out in Pendleton, and then they disbanded the Raiders. So what was the purpose of disbanding the Raiders and then bringing the Raiders back?
Well, it's a little bit confusing and incestuous, right? But so there were the Raiders in World War II, right? They existed from 1942 to 1944, and then they were done away with.
Right.
About the same time, amphibious reconnaissance was formed, right? And they in World War II, they were working with the SEALs, who were at that time called UDTs, doing clandestine landings and clearing mines and things from beachheads. And then Force Recon or Recon continued to exist, throughout Vietnam, obviously. But when the Raiders were disbanded, the 4th Marines, they largely became the 4th Marines. And so the 4th Marines, particularly the boat company, was kind of designated as the Raiders. So they were, but there's a big distinction from Marine Raiders, of World War II, the boat Raiders, and then the MARSOC Raiders today. So MARSOC was formed, our test unit started in 2003.
Okay.
Detachment One from 2003 to 2006 is a proof of concept. And then in 2006, MARSOC activated. And then it wasn't until I think 2013 that MARSOC was kind of made the Raiders.
Nice.
So it gets confusing.
Yeah, the Marine Corps has always been confusing when they do things. It's that hurry up and wait mentality, which I still do to this day. And
I feel like they just never know what to do with the special force side, right? Like that's like something.
Yeah, the Marine Corps has never been a fan, of having somebody that thinks they're specialer than everybody else. And that's that was the fact. That was the way it was in World War II. The commandant was, actively like pushed back and didn't want the Raiders. And finally, they got told basically by President Roosevelt that, hey, you're gonna do this thing. And an interesting note President Roosevelt's son, Jimmy Roosevelt, was the executive officer of the 2nd Raider Battalion. So this is the president's son coming up out of a sub, going ashore and making like the first raid or on one of the first major raids of the war. That wouldn't happen today.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen today. That would not happen. Of course, back then, everybody was proud to serve in the military, and it wouldn't happen today. So you retired. Am I correct? You completely retired. How many years did you wind up doing?
21 and some change.
21 and some change.
How long were you a sniper for?
I went, so like I said, I got to, I was in a sniper platoon really from the time that I came in. So there was a little bit of a fluke when I joined. I got, there was a typo in my orders and they sent me to the sniper platoon, or they sent me to weapons company.
Okay.
And then they realized the only place that they had that rated 0311s in weapons company was the sniper platoon. So rather than correct the mistake and send me away, they sent, private, or I think I was a PFC Dailey to the sniper platoon, where everybody, hated me, right? Because you had to try out, you had to, prove yourself before you got the opportunity to even try out for the sniper platoon. So I got thrust in there as a PFC. And then really just, it was either sink or swim. So I learned to swim real pretty quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Now snipers always been something I've always been intrigued with. Now that training is something else, right? Now that's very rigorous. And I mean, some of your movements are literally, very precise and timed. Like, talk a little bit about your training.
Yeah, it was. I really lucked out once I kind of won the platoon over. I was a 3-7 state platoon, and at that time, now the 7th Marines are up in 29 pounds. At that time, we were at Camp Mateo on Pendleton.
Yeah.
So it was a great time to kind of grow up, in that environment. We got to shoot a lot, got really great training, and at that time, sniper school was in the Marine Corps officially did away with it, sniper school, last year, but which was crazy. But at that time, you were really expected, if you got to go to sniper school, to show up already knowing everything.
Yeah.
And sniper school was just a confirmation, and you get your MOS. So I was, we were constantly training, right? Because if you got a quota to go and you failed, then it was unlikely that they were ever going to let you go back.
Right.
But there was, at the time, it was about a 50% attrition rate. So my class started with, I think, 24, and we finished with 10, maybe. Yeah. So it was, it taught me very early the brilliance of the basics. Is important. The mission planning and the ability is. I think I was a corporal by the time I finally got to go, but of being able to mission plan, being able to just, like I said, do the basics really well, being able to camouflage, cover, concealment, all of those things were really tested. So it was a really cool time to kind of be in that environment, and it was a great opportunity to get to go as a relatively young guy.
And as a sniper, you guys got to learn how to work a lot by yourself, right? I mean, I know that sometimes they do send, 2-man missions, but I mean, most of the time, right? It's, you guys are all alone, right? I mean, on a single mission or.
Yeah, I mean, usually you're with at least a buddy. Once we got into the war kicked off, at least the stuff that I did, we were usually in larger teams. So because you needed security, you needed, and we were put in positions that required, 7-8 man teams.
So I had a platoon sergeant I was with 2nd Battalion 8th Marines Golf Company for my first 3 years. And then I wanted to go on a med float, and 2nd Battalion 8th Marines wasn't going to do a med float. So I did a lateral move to 1-8 Bravo Company, and because they were getting ready to go on a med float. And now I had to extend two months to make the med float. So when I did that, I got sent over to 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, Bravo Company, 3rd Platoon. Well, my platoon sergeant was a staff sergeant, Westall. He was a scout sniper at one time, and then he went to a line platoon because he was trying to, go up in rank. And one of the things that I hated was when we were doing our 10-mile runs. We would do in the middle. We would stop and do Kim's game. Do you know what that is?
Oh yeah,
Brian, do you know what that is?
I don't think I do.
Right.
Maybe it's something else. Tell me what it is.
So Kim's game is, so you do a 10-mile run, and at the 5-mile marker, there's a box, and inside that box, there's several items, and you have to remember everything inside this box.
Oh no!
And then by the time you got to the end of the run, you had to write everything down, and we did that probably at least twice a week. We would have to do that, but it helps build your mental focus, especially when
you're about something else other than your knees and your feet burning and stuff, right?
Yeah, because you have to remember all of that by the time you got to the end of your run. And like I said, it could be 10 items, it could be 20 items. It just depends on however much staff sergeant want to put it in there. But I always hated that doing Kim's game, and I know that's a sniper.
It doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, that's it. Actually, the concept of it, people will say that it stands for keep in memory. That's what Kim stands for, but it really comes from a short story that Rudyard Kipling wrote called Kim. And in it, the British Army in India has this kid, and they train him to be a spy, basically. Okay. And they say, and they use they're in there. They call it the jewel game, but he has to, look at a bunch of items, memorize every detail about them, and then be able to report back. And that huge, thing in sniper school. It still is. We still use it quite a bit in our training.
No, that's awesome. When we first started doing it, I hated it because I was never a good runner. Like I could do short distance, because I've always played football, so I could do short distances. But long distance running was not my forte when I was in the Marine Corps. I was never a 300 PFTer because of my run. So I could do 3 miles in 18 minutes at the time when I was in. That's how 3 miles in 18 minutes. I would usually do 3 miles in 20 because I was never a runner because for one, I'm bow-legged. For two, I'm pigeon-toed. So when I run, my feet go in. So I would always get shin splints and stuff. And so running was never my forte. And then when we started bringing in the Kim's game into it, you get that little break. I mean, it's like maybe a 30-second break to look in the box, remember everything, and then get to the end. And
just enough break to give your shin splints,
Yes. Yeah. Enough break to give your shin splints hell and make it harder on the last 5 miles. But no, man, it's super, super cool. So you did your time in the Marine Corps, and then you got out. So how long after you got out of the Marine Corps before you wrote a book or your first book?
Let's see. This is my first published book. I wrote a novel that's not that good, to be honest with you. It hasn't seen the light of day, but so when I was very lucky that after 9/11 I came back from that deployment and really started buckling down on college, using tuition assistance and knocking out classes, and was able to finish a bachelor's degree on terminal leave. So I retired. I mean, you guys got out too before you were able to give your GI Bill to your family or your kids or whatever.
Right.
So I couldn't do that. So I was, damn sure that I was going to spend every single cent of the GI Bill. So I went to the University of North Carolina here and got a master's degree in liberal studies. It was mainly in writing. It was mainly in literature. Okay. And then I realized I still had half of the GI Bill left. So I went and got a degree in fine arts, basically, in writing, creative writing. And the requirement to graduate for that was to produce something. So I produced that novel, which I said is not great. I might have to pull it back out. But shortly after that, I started. It kind of started from one story. Some of the guys and gals I was in school with were like, "Hey, write some about your experiences, in the
Right.
military," and I wasn't excited to do it at first, but I wrote one. Kind of like an essay, I guess, and shared it with them, and they were like, "Fuck," because we're talking about like 25, 28-year-old,
Yeah.
young people who've never spent a day in the military, probably don't know anyone who spent a day in the military.
Right.
So it was an essay about a kid, young guy, I guess, that I shot in a job as a sniper, and just kind of thinking about it. Kind of how it impacted me and everything, and kind of what it means to kill people and the whole 9 yards. And so there was, it got a lot of, surprisingly, I was kind of surprised because I was scared as shit to like show anybody this, and
Right.
it got some good feedback, and they were like, "Man, this is like, really makes it real." That reading this, I understand what, or at least think I can kind of understand what the people in the military go through.
Right.
And I'm like, man, fuck, that's kind of cool, right? If you can make somebody, get them some understanding, and they kind of realized that I wasn't a fucking monster or anything like that. I was just a normal dude who did a job for a while,
Right.
and wasn't ashamed, obviously, of any minute of doing it. I loved every minute of it, but so that kind of led to expanding that, and that turned into this book, Rugged Bastards.
I'm definitely going to have to buy the book. As you can tell, I got all kinds of books. I'm actually in the process of building a new bookshelf so I can keep all the books that I got from veterans who have written books. So I'm definitely gonna have to get your book and read it. And I got a question for you. With you being a scout sniper, you being in MARSOC, when you meet somebody for the first time, and this question always bothers me as a Marine Corps veteran. So my sister-in-law, when I first met her, she was 13 years old. Of course, I'm 5 years older than my wife. So her first question when she met me, she goes, "Have you ever killed anybody?" And as a veteran, as a Marine, I'm like, how do I answer this question? Because she knew what I did and what I had done in the military, like my job wise, but she didn't know what I've done, like outside of the country. So for me, that question has always bothered me. Have you ever had somebody come up to you and say, "Hey, have you ever killed anybody?" And has it bothered you?
I have had them ask. It doesn't bother me. I don't mind talking about it. Usually I'll say, "Hey, are you sure you want to know?" I don't. I think there's, and that's part of because I think that civilians have this twisted idea of what a Marine is, or what any kind of service member, but especially if you're in special operations or whatever, they think that they have an image of what you should be like, right? And I enjoy kind of showing them that that's twisted in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So I don't talk a lot about it. I don't think, but if it's, and I've told people, no, I've told people fuck off. I've told people none of your damn business,
Right.
plenty of time. But I think it depends on who's asking, how serious they are, and
Right.
Well, that's just it. I think too is it's the audience, right? Like, and who's asking the question, because sometimes I think people get this reaction, or they get that awe factor, and it's just the way that a lot of the people that don't know how to, never been there or know kind of what that experience is like, the reaction to it, right? Like, and that's the hard part about it. And then sometimes that some of the stories that you're going to tell them is probably outside of their concept, right? Of like, wow, that could really happen. Yeah. Like, this is not Hollywood. And what I mean? Like, that's the hard part. Cause then I think that one question ends up leading into a lot of others.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, but it gives the
It
opportunity
doesn't
to,
end.
yeah,
Right.
it gives the
Elaborate.
opportunity to talk to somebody that you might not get to otherwise, and that's one of the reasons. But a lot of, understandably, a lot of people don't want to talk about that, but especially one on one. But
Yeah.
that's, I've come to really become like a big advocate for veterans writing, because that gives you another way to tell your story if you want. It really helps, I think, to like get shit out of your head and on paper.
Yeah.
Especially if it's things that bother you, things that you lose sleep over. Getting it out of your head, putting it on paper, you can put it in a drawer and shut it up, and maybe that helps. And maybe
Yeah.
you want other people to read it, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to save it for your kids to read someday, maybe you don't.
So
Well, it's imagine when you do that sometimes. Sorry, it's crazy when you do that sometimes, and you go back and read it. Your mind can sometimes change from what you felt at that moment too. That's why it is good, kind of, to put that down, right? Because you could learn a lot from yourself at that moment in time.
Yeah. David had a question down there.
Yeah. So John, he says, when you write about the time you served, do you have time, or do you have to change anything due to revealing past ops?
So yeah, I had to, when I finished the book, I had to send it to the Department of Defense to review, and it took them 6 months. So because like they had to send it to Naval Special Warfare, to the SEALs, because we worked with them, and I talk about them. They had to send it to Army Special Operations and MARSOC, and so it came back with there were some things I had to redact or had to word differently. There was not much, and there was nothing. I mean, I was cautious, about what I wrote, but you do obviously have to be careful, and it's something that a lot of people that veterans that write things don't realize, that anything that you write is supposed to be reviewed. Because I still work for the government. I was a little more, and I still work for MARSOC. They were a little more strict with me, I think.
Yeah, and you do, because like when I spoke with Danny, we were talking about him earlier. We had to send the podcast episode to make sure we didn't say anything that we shouldn't have said. And of course, with his court case that he had going on and stuff like that, so we had to make sure, had to send it to his lawyer. Then the lawyer had to send it to DOJ and DOD everywhere, just to make sure that nothing was leaked and that we could, go ahead and publish it so people could see his story. And I'm going to bring him back on now that, he's retired, and he might be able to speak a little bit more candidly on some of the stuff that went on in his 24-year career. So, yeah, it's crazy. And then we got another question here. Mr. Michael Bauer said, what's the biggest mistake Hollywood gets about special ops characters?
I'd say probably, characters, I think what's kind of fascinating, I think, is that, we have guys that are into everything. There's kind of the idea that all the guys do is like sleep wrapped up in a poncho liner, get up and shoot, and train all day. And there we certainly have guys that do that, but we have guys at MARSOC, I'm thinking of, that like were chefs before they joined the Marine Corps, or were in the band. So there's a wide and a lot of that is good. You want people to think differently. You want people to make decisions differently. So that's absolutely part of it. I think what they get wrong about the missions, is that, and then it's kind of understandable, right? Is that it's action 24/7, right? And anybody that's been to combat knows that like 90% of it's sitting on your ass, or hurry up and wait. It's the kind of the Marine Corps way. But that would not make for an exciting movie. So it's kind of understandable, I guess.
Yeah, they definitely have to change it, because a lot of times what we do in the military, when you put that, if you put it on the screen, what we actually do in the military, it's not all that entertaining. So they do have to soup it up to make it more entertaining and more likable and more enjoyable. So the whole action scenes and stuff in the military, or in military movies, it don't happen that way. It never happens that way.
Do you have any thoughts on Chris Kyle?
I don't know enough about him about the whole situation to say anything intelligent. I believe we did one deployment, not together, but at the same time.
So I was gonna say, it seems like you guys might have been in, around the same time frame.
I don't know enough about any of that, and I absolutely, have a rule not to talk anything bad about somebody unless I know it absolutely to be true.
Right.
I know, the people that I know that knew him, he was a great shooter, is a good guy by all accounts that I'm aware of.
Yeah, that movie, the American Sniper movie, the way Hollywood portrayed, when he came home, and then when he wanted to go back, and then when he came home, and then when he wanted to go back, I think that was largely exaggerated.
Hollywooded it up.
Yeah, they
Hollywooded
definitely.
it up.
Oh yeah, they definitely.
They have to. I mean, plus you're taking one of the things with writing that I try to make it clear in the book is when you're writing something that's true, right, or you're trying to say I'm going to portray something that's true, you can fail at that two ways. One, you can just lie, right, and make up shit that didn't happen. And if you're writing a memoir that's supposed to be true, you can't do that. But you're also selecting what to tell. Yeah. Right. So there's ample times where I looked like a giant asshole and did stupid shit. And great surprise, I don't include that in the book. Most of the time, right? There are a couple of, I don't say that I'm perfect by any means, but if some of those, domestic sort of situations happened, and they were, over the span of a career, but they were compressing them into, 15 minutes in a movie, to demonstrate try to demonstrate what I'm expecting they were trying to do, the toll that multiple deployments take on you.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you can't take anything that Hollywood produces with any sort of factuality.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100%. So I put your link to your website, JaDailey.com. Now, you can pre-order the book. Like if you go to the home screen, scroll all the way down to the bottom, or almost all the way to the bottom. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, and Bookshop.org. I don't see that you can order it from your website other than those places there. I know Amazon puts a hell of a fee on it, so the authors don't get as much money. I don't know about Barnes and Nobles or Books A Million and Bookshop. So is there somewhere where if somebody wanted to get your book, they can order it directly from you, or that way you get the majority of the money, or do they have to go through one of those suppliers?
Yeah, they have to. It's not. It's distributed by Simon and Schuster, so they do their thing. So any of those places or any bookstore, if you have like a local mom and pop bookstore, you can walk in and tell them you want to order it. It comes out in about a month. Now, the 13th of next month. But one of the things that I didn't know until I did this is that, pre-orders, and we worked to make it as cheap as possible. I wanted the guys in the barracks to be able to hey, I'll spend, less than $20 on a copy. So we made it paperback so that we could do that. And it's, I think, like $19.
What about audio for the Marines? You know what I mean?
So just the other day, they put up the Audible version, and they're recording the audio book now.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
Nice.
So, but yeah, anybody that you'll have my eternal thanks if you go on and pre-order a copy, because that, from what they tell me, that looks good, and it makes the publisher say, hey, we need to print more books. We need to, ramp this up. So pre-orders are pretty big in the publishing world, apparently.
Definitely. So yeah, if you're out there, go to JaDailey.com, scroll down about halfway, and you can see where it says pre-order here. You can pre-order the book there. I know some people like me, I have a hard time reading like a hard copy book. I would rather listen to it when I'm driving on my way to work or in between jobs while I'm working. But I also love having a hard copy that I can while I'm listening, I can watch and read it as I'm doing both. So I'm reading it and listening to
Teddy
it.
Ruxpin sounds like the little Teddy Ruxpin back in the day, bro.
Oh yeah. But no, I'd love it. So let's see. So about the book a little bit. So I'm going to read what it says about the book here. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. So following the 9/11 attacks, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld directed the Marine Corps to establish a unit that would answer to U.S. Special Operations Command, USCOM, the 86-man Detachment One. So there was 86 people in the unit, Detachment One.
Yeah, initially, and that was admin guys and mechanics and intel. Big. There were about 30 of us that were the 03s.
S shops and all that.
And then there were about 30 that were intel folks, and then about 20 was kind of spread among everything else.
Okay. And then so the 86-man Detachment One was formed with a 2-year charter to train and deploy as a proof of concept to assess the viability of a larger Marine Special Operations contribution in support of the global war on terror. I didn't have my crayons today, so it's hard reading sometimes.
That's why we need the audio version.
I know, right? Yeah, so David Durbin says, hard time reading, especially when it doesn't have pictures to color, laugh out loud. You would be correct, sir. No, and then there's pictures on your website. I'm definitely going to probably go on and do a pre-order because like I said, I definitely want it on here. And then I'd have to mail it to you so I can get you to sign it because I do.
Yeah, I've gotten that a lot, and I wish there was a way that could make it easier to do that, but we haven't figured that out. But yeah, I'll anybody around Camp Lejeune, hopefully I'll be heading out to Pendleton, as part of the kind of the tour. I was out there last week actually, so I got
nice
for something else. But yeah, I love.
Well, I'm definitely gonna have to see where you do your book tour at, because hopefully you come, because I live outside of the big city of Louisville,
right.
and I'm hoping you come into Louisville because there's a lot of veterans here in Kentucky, and there's we got Barnes and Noble. What else do we have? We got a couple of bookshops here in Kentucky, so yeah, I'd definitely love to see you come into Louisville. And if you do, I'll definitely come up there and either buy the book while I'm there or have one with me. So depending on, but yeah, I'm definitely going to check and see when your book tour is going to be. Let's see. I had some other questions that I was going to ask you from the website.
I'll ask you real quick, real one. If now, John, is there any snipers that ever inspired you, or that any snipers you've ever looked up to, throughout your life?
Yeah, there's, obviously the in the Marine Corps, there's Carlos Hathcock, and
White Feather.
And his book came out, I have an autographed copy of that.
Nice.
His book came out after I had joined the Marine Corps, but I think, I'd read a story about him. I think it was in a newspaper or something. And so that, solidified the idea that that's what I wanted to do. Later I learned about this guy, Chuck Mawhinney, that was actually had more confirmed kills than Carlos Hathcock, or not, maybe not confirmed, but a lot more kills. And he just passed away recently. So, getting to, meet him, was really, really cool. And when you kind of get into that world, you start digging into the history and everything of sniping. And I've had the good luck now to be, I'm a member of the Scout Sniper Heritage Association as a board member. And, we do a lot of research and really discovered that, it was kind of unknown that the Marine Corps had snipers in World War I. They were trained by the Canadians. Right.
Wow.
So, which is, nobody
I didn't know that.
Nobody knew about it until recently guys started digging in. So there's a huge, the Marine Corps obviously always had a tradition of, being able to shoot right from the tops of the crow's nest, when they were on ships to, to shooting in boot camp on, 500 meters.
Air, land, or sea.
Exactly. So there's no shortage of, guys to look up to. And then in my sniper platoon, I had, these guys that, I just respected the hell out of and wanted to be like. So yeah, I think one of the great things in the Marine Corps is that no matter at what level you are, you always pick somebody and at least I did, that I want to be like that guy. So I'm going to, if he's carrying a knife on his belt, I'm going to carry a knife on my damn belt,
The Marine Corps always been good at sharing history and getting us to learn the history of, the Marines that came before us. And I mean, we had a lot of instant heroes once we graduated boot camp. We had the Chesty Pooler, we had, Dan Dailey, we had there's just so many names out there that we were just introduced to because the Marine Corps does a great job, like I said, of making you appreciate the ones that served before you.
Yeah, definitely. So I had an opportunity to, so I was with 2nd Battalion 8th Marines, and we had the Frozen Chosen Marines come to base, and we had the opportunity to go meet the Frozen Chosen Marines, which I can only imagine what they went through during that, and seeing these guys and hearing their stories. It was like, oh man. And because the Marine Corps, when I joined to when I got out, you can tell how the Marine Corps shifted from the focus of being hardcore to more political and being PC. That's kind of one of the reasons why I got out the first time. My plan was always to do 20 years in the military, and I got out of the Marine Corps and I was going to go into the Army because I was 0311. The only thing that I was able to do when I got out of the Marine Corps was I was trained to kill. That's the only thing I was trained to do. So I didn't really have a job skill that was going to help me when I got out of the Marine Corps. So my plan was, go into the Army, go into telecommunications, something I could fall back on when I got out of the military after 20 years. And unfortunately, at that time is when they were changing the tattoo policy in the military. You couldn't have tattoos below your elbow, and if you did, they wouldn't let you re-enlist. So they came up with some excuse. Oh, well, you had asthmatic symptoms as a child. I'm like, Doc, I got 2 DD-214s, honorable discharges from the Marine Corps, and you're going to tell me I can't go in the Army? It never made sense to me. Not at all. Yeah.
You were overqualified.
I was overqualified. I would agree.
Yeah, I just read a story about an Army captain that got out and joined the Marine Corps as a private.
As a private, yeah, I seen that.
That's crazy.
Which is about right, probably. I think experience and capability wise.
Yeah, so he actually plans on becoming an officer in the Marine Corps. I read a story. Matter of fact, on one of the Tip of the Spear roundtables that we do monthly, he wants to be an Army officer. So we'll see. We'll follow him and see what happens with him during his career in the Marine Corps. So you were talking about idolizing Marines as you're coming up as a young Marine. We had this CW05, Gunner Wright was his name. This guy was like 8 foot tall, and he would run from 2nd Battalion, the headquarters, all the way to the front gate at Camp Lejeune. So, and you're talking like 25 miles.
Don't let them lead the run.
Oh, no.
Those long legs. Oh, man.
You could keep up with him. Now, this guy, he always talked with a stutter. So, like, just normal conversation, he would talk with a stutter. But when he was pissed off, there was no stutter. This guy would just lay into people. I'm talking about knife hand and all. But I always idolized him because he was, he when he became a warrant officer, he was at the rank of gunny by the time that he decided to go stag. And then he made it all the way from CW01 to CW05. And that's hard. And he got the title gunner because he knew every weapon system that the Marine Corps had to offer. And so that was one of the guys that I idolized when I was in the Marine Corps. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. So I learned, I had the 249, I had the M16A2, I had the 203, and then I shot pretty much whatever I could shoot if they let me. where I'm leading to this. So when you were a scout sniper, what was your favorite weapon of choice?
So the early days, the M40A1, right? That was it, and it had largely been unchanged for a long, long time. 10 power inertial scope, 308, and that it wasn't until after I left the sniper platoon and went to Force Recon that started getting updated, right? So the A2, the A3, the A4. Um, when we went into with Detachment One, we had, before we deployed, we started getting access to weapons that SOCOM had. So I deployed with a SR-25, which looks like an M16, right? But it's a 308, and it's very accurate out to 800. I mean, you can definitely hit it 1,000 with it. But so that's what I carried a lot during sniper missions in Iraq. The 50 cal, the Barrett 50 cal is hard to say no to. That's just a lot of fun to shoot.
Yeah,
And
I was
then
gonna say that, man.
That's
That's
my
gonna be a
favorite.
hell of a powerful weapon right there.
yeah, it. I was when I was a young lad. They started building 50 cal precision weapons. Like, a lot of people won't call them a sniper rifle because they're not as accurate, and the
Right,
ammo,
because there's got to be recoil to that, no
right?
doubt.
And the ammo is not accurate enough, right,
Sure.
to really be precision. But there was the Crossman, I think, the BB, the guys that make the BB guns. They had a 50 cal. There were a lot of different ones that we got to test, and then ultimately the Macmillan, and we got to use that. One of the coolest things I've ever seen is when, with Detachment One, I got to take a bigger team of snipers into Najaf, Iraq, when that was kind of flaring up. And Najaf has the biggest, to the west side of it, the biggest cemetery in the world. Right, it's been there for thousands of years. It's like a town, right? There's subterranean areas where people are buried. There's structures built really narrow, narrow kind of alleyways in between. So fighting in that would be fucking horrific.
Definitely.
But a MEU was stationed on the outskirts of it. There's army guys stationed around, cordoning off this town. In the middle of the town is this mosque, right? It's called the Imam Ali Mosque, and it's the third holiest site for Shia Muslims. And there was 5,000 assholes, holed up on the inside of this compound. But if there was any damage to the mosque, there would be hell to pay, right? Because it was, it's like, it's up there. Yeah. Super sacred. So the only people that were allowed to get anywhere near the mosque were special operations guys, and only snipers. So the only rounds that could be fired were precision rounds.
Nice.
So I had my guys. There were Army Special Forces teams. We had a Polish Special Forces sniper team, and when I went to sniper school, it was all about Vietnam, right? So that was, it's all out in the woods. There was not a whole lot of effort put into urban sniping,
right?
So we got out there one of the first mornings. The sun comes up. One of my guys is doing something, and a round goes whizzing past his head, close enough that it was somebody that knew what they were doing, but just weren't that good at it.
Right.
So we started like digging through our minds for things that we had read and learned about, like the Russians and the German sniper battles in Stalingrad. Right. And so we get down with a couple of guys. We're all watching where we think the shots came from. And after a while, we see a brick in this building, get pulled out, and a rifle barrel, poke through.
Oh, man.
Guy takes a shot at somebody, brick goes back in. We're watching a couple of rooms over, brick comes out, and we're like, son of a bitch. We'd read about that happening. So we had our 50 cal, and we brought, the Army had a 50 cal sniper rifle. And this is semi-automatic exploding tip ammunition.
Ooh.
All right, so we set up 2 of them, and we just wait. All right, until the brick comes out.
Like that game back in the day, we had to smash the when the thing pops out.
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, it was pretty much that. But brick comes out, the muzzle of the rifle kind of sticks out a little bit, and we just it's like talking guns, right? Except with 250 cals, and so they put 2 mags of 10 rounds each.
Oh my god!
So 40 rounds of exploding tip ammo that basically just dropped the wall on top of this guy. That was was definitely one of the coolest uses of the 50 cal I've ever seen.
I guess he wasn't doing that anymore.
No, that was the last time for him.
Yeah, definitely. I would have loved to seen the pink mist. That's for sure, through that sniper scope. So I had the opportunity when I was in Pohang, South Korea. I got to shoot the Barrett 50 cal. Of course, it was tripod mounted and stuff like that, because it does have a recoil. Not as bad as you would think, but it does have a recoil. And we were shooting anywhere from 8 to 1,000 with the Barrett, and we had targets. There was targets placed and stuff like that. And Barrett has always been one of my favorite sniper rifles, or I say sniper rifle, but it's always been one of my favorite. But the M40A1 was also another good one as well, which was definitely a lot lighter than the Barrett, but more accurate. The 40 was definitely more accurate than the Barrett. So, but no, man, I love hearing your stories and everything, and I'm excited about reading the book. So like I said earlier in chat, I typed his address in there. Go there, pre-order his book, because it actually helps the author out when you pre-order. So definitely go check out the book. And then if you're like me and you like listening to audiobooks, when that comes available, order that as well. And then if somebody wanted to find out about your book tour, where can people go find out about your book tour and upcoming events?
Yeah, honestly, it will be at that website, jdailey.com. Right now, I have just a couple of things scheduled, and most of them are pretty local at Barnes and Nobles and places like that. So hopefully, the people that do that sort of thing, schedule that stuff, will start, working their magic, and I'll be able to post those on the website.
So you got a question?
Yeah, it's a little of the Irish.
Yes.
So speaking of that, we were talking about Danny. Have you tried his bourbon yet?
Yeah, I've got a bottle back here behind me.
I love it. It's
Southern Cross bourbon.
Yes.
Yeah, and you ought to know, you're from Kentucky, right?
Yes, I love it. Now, so when I first got his bottle, so Alan sent me the bottle, and when I first got it, I popped it open and I just tried it straight from the bottle. So it was room temperature. It wasn't like hot or anything, but it was just room temperature. I was like, all right, it's not bad. And then I put it over a ball of ice, and it just changed the flavor profile so much. And I always have been like a Beam and Coke guy, Woodford and Coke. I always did highballs. But with Southern Cross bourbon, I just over ice and boom, I'm good. And it's good sipping. It's good sipping bourbon. It's really good, for a blended, because it's a blended whiskey. Yeah. It's not distilled on site, but they source their bourbon, then they get a master blender and they blend it. Now he is coming out, if I remember correctly. They're coming out. So they got Southern Cross bourbon, which is for special operators. Money, when you buy bottles of Southern Cross, money goes into the Special Operations Foundation, if I remember correctly. And then they're coming out with a cheaper bottle, which is the Raider Chaser, which is going to be another blended. And then they are coming out with the Legendary series. Nice. So I'm excited to see, what they come up with. I can't wait. It's going to be super cool to see that. And I always love, having Marines on the show. Granted, I'll talk to Army, Air Force. I won't talk to Space Force. I've never had anybody. But we like bringing in veterans who, mainly we focus on veteran service organizations from around the country. And then we bring in veteran authors, comedians, singers. That's what we do, just because everybody has a story to tell. And like your story here with Tough, Rugged Bastards, it's a memoir of your life as in special forces, and being the godfather, the OG of MARSOC. I mean, what's up, Brandon? How are you, sir? That's one of my other co-hosts as well. He does our Tuesdays and Thursdays. He's a Marine Corps veteran as well.
Nice.
So it's super cool, and I thank Rich numerous times for connecting me and you. I'm definitely going to order your book, and once I get the book and I read it, I'd love to have you back on the show so we can talk about it a little bit more in depth, because I want to see what's all in there. So that way I can be like, oh, well, what about this story? Or what about this story?
Yeah, that'd be great. There's a lot. I've had, like I said at the beginning, but I'm just very fortunate to be in the right place or the wrong place, depending on which way you look at it, a lot of times. So it's, if there's some stories in there that, like, if I didn't write them or live them, I'm like, man, I don't know if I believe, that this guy fell into this, good luck or into this unit or this opportunity. But yeah, all in all, I had a blast. I think every day of my, time in the Marine Corps. There were very few days that I was not happy to get up and go to work in the morning.
Awesome. So since Brandon's in here, I'm going to steal one of his questions that he always asks guests. What keeps you up at night?
That's a good question. It's a hard question. Not a lot. I know the thing when General Mattis was asked that question, he's like, I keep people up. I do that. I think I keep my wife up by snoring, but I refuse the fucking CPAP. All right. But I think the thing that does is, in the past, I think 2 months, I've had two former Marine ready retired guys, kill themselves. I mean, one last week, that's just reaching epic fucking proportions, of guys, gals all across the military. That's the one thing. And I just can't fucking understand it. I was talking to a friend of mine that I'm like, fuck, man, yes, don't kill yourself. But if you're going to, sit down and fucking explain it. Try to explain it, right? Why that, life is so bad that you can't overcome whatever it is. So I don't know what that's something that does keep me up. I don't know what the answer is,
That's my answer as well. That missing that one veteran. That's something that keeps me up at night. Because,
well, the frustrating part is, bro, is man, I feel like there's a lot more attention to it than there ever has been before, but the numbers ain't stopping, right? I mean, we're still not getting there. You know what I mean? We're still not getting through or something. I don't know what the fuck it is. It is frustrating as fuck though, right?
Yes.
Hear it, and it's like, I hate the way I look at it. Unfortunately, is it like you almost give the enemy a fucking tally, right? Now you're doing what they wanted it to happen, and we're playing into it. That's the part that I think gets me sometimes, man. It just irks me, and then some of the people that you hear about are ones that were happy, had no signs whatsoever. We're the head of an organization. There was one guy that committed suicide who was actually the head of the organization about preventing people from committing suicide.
Yeah, I mean,
goddamn, bro. I don't know.
And David popped up there that it's more, I think, young guys than it is the old guy. My entire time that I was in, I think I knew one guy that killed himself when I was on active duty. And that was, this dude had debts, like he couldn't stop gambling, and so
it wasn't a problem when I was in. I do not recall so much
Well, that's the one that I
unless
recall
we never heard about it,
in 20 years. The one guy that I knew in over 20 years, and now, like I said, two guys in the past month. One guy, retired Raider with an MBA, great job. Another one, I think in the same boat. I don't know. There's obviously there's a great book called The Operator Syndrome that's, talks about like, minor TBIs, over time and the effects of that with everything else, right? All the aches and pain, all of the stuff. And we really have no precedence, right? To say what the 20 years of war does to somebody, right? This is the first time we've done that. And there's that, there's, guys who grew up, guys like Danny, I mean, deployment, over that. I did 2 combat deployments when I retired. The guys that were coming in, 2001 timeframe and staying in for a career, especially in special operations or in units where you were, back to back deployments. I mean, you just getting beat up, and then then you get out and you realize that you miss it, right? And that's, I think, a lot of it. There's like, what the fuck do I do now? What's my purpose now? So that's a huge part of it. And I don't know how you, running, going to Dunkin' fucking Donuts and Silkies and eating a bunch of donuts ain't fucking doing it, right?
Not only that, but it's like there's so many family things that go on, right? And it's not just I'm disconnecting from there, but I'm trying to adjust being in a family. Sometimes family doesn't understand, us military guys are pretty rough for some people, right? And they think that we're rough. We think a lot differently than others, right? Because we understand the importance of like listening to orders or making sure that you accomplish what you're set out to do, things like that, right? Like and then we're constantly trying to explain that to a lot of people all the time, right? So I think society puts a lot of pressure on us unknowingly as well, right? Because we're already going through so much, but then like I said, the society pressures start honing in and pushing on you. Now you got to go be the breadwinner. You got to get a good job. You got to do this. You got to do that, and go fight for this, and then get denied for that, and just the things that we're not set up for failure, right? And one of the biggest things you learn when you get out is there's a lot of fucking failure. There's a lot of failure, right? And you have to adjust to that life. Because in the Marine Corps, failure could mean death. It could mean other people dying, and trying to break that when you get out. It was hard for me. I mean, my kids never went through boot camp, but I sure as shit treated them like recruits sometimes. You know what I mean? Because that's the way I trained, and I thought, well, this is what keeps me alive, and this was good training. But they're not wired like we are, right? And we just don't understand that. I think is when we're in the Marine Corps, there's not a lot of explanation of why we're doing X, Y, and Z. Just X, Y, and Z needs to get done. So the mission's done. We don't got time to say, well, why do we got to do that and turn and that's exactly what we do with our kids. And they start asking questions, and we're not good at explaining ourselves, right? And then so everybody else is just left there to, well, why the fuck are they just assholes like that? And we just don't explain ourselves.
It's crazy. So a little girl, she's 16, still had a whole life ahead of her, and she just recently committed suicide. And you were speaking of a head of an organization that was supposed to prevent military members, veterans, from committing suicide. Well, locally there was one who ran an organization. He committed suicide. After he went down a rabbit hole with drinking and stuff. David Durbin, be good, buddy. Thank you for jumping on, sir. He went down a rabbit hole. He started drinking real heavy, started doing drugs, And his whole mission was to stop suicide because his grandfather committed suicide. His grandfather was World War II veteran. Of course, they didn't know what PTS was or TBI back then, so they called it shell shock. Well, his grandfather committed suicide, so his mission was to to stop suicide. And then he went down the rabbit hole, and then he committed suicide. And I've never been one that thought of suicide being a way out of my problems, because the way I look at it, if I commit suicide, that's putting the struggles on my wife. All my problems go to my wife and my two daughters, or my mom. When I was in the military, or would have went to my mom and my dad and my sisters, and at the time. So I've never understood why people take that route. To me, that's a selfish way. That's a selfish way to end your own problems. But I also understand that shit goes on in people's lives, and that's why we always have to ask that next hard question. Because I can go up to you, John, and say, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And more likely you're going to say, "I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm hanging in there, I'm living the dream." Because we've all said it. As veterans, we've all said it. We're tore up inside, and we've all said those answers to people. So you always have to ask the next hard question. How are you really doing? And you have to be ready for that conversation, because it could be a 5-minute conversation, could be a 4-hour conversation. You have to be ready for that conversation. And I think, they say 22 a day are committing suicide. And I think that number is skewed, because I think that's just 22 numbers a day that's been reported. I think the number is more like 40 a day. But I don't know the statistics on that, but that's just what I think. So yeah, suicide is just one of those things, man.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah,
it is a big problem. And like I said, all the awareness about it, a lot of people are starting to talk about it. Like I said, it's something that we just flat out ignored prior to the mid, early 2000s. We just ignored it. People just compartmentalize your problems, suck it up, move on, carry on with your life, get over it, all those type of things, where some people, no matter how much you try to get over, sometimes it's not, you don't have that ability to get over it without possibly talking to someone, or, just, you don't even have to go to a therapist. I know everybody harps on that kind of stuff. It could be a good friend or someone that you can just trust, and you just sometimes getting that off your chest.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part, I think, as a lot of men out there, particularly, they're not good at the Philly stuff, right? Like my wife, I'll go hang out with my friends, and my wife will start asking me questions. I'm like, "Babe, we don't talk about that stuff. I don't know." We don't ask those kind of questions. They tell me something that I've been told something, and then they're like, well, did you ask him about this? No, I didn't.
No, yeah.
I just let them tell me what they wanted to tell me, right? Yeah. I wasn't gonna go start. Why did you do that? Well, how, where?
Yeah.
I'm letting a person talk and let them express what they want to. Right. Yeah. And I think that sometimes maybe as men, though, it might be okay to go in and ask a little bit of a next question. Right. And to kind of dig a little bit deeper, because we are very much surface level people. Men we're very surface level, and we don't get deep that often.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you just get to talking with other guys, and I always find it way more enlightening or something when I start talking to like-minded people in general. It just makes the conversation easier, and then you start to actually hear stories from them, and then it resonates with you, and you're like, "Shit, dude, I kind of have the same kind of thing going down, right?" And I didn't know what it was, it must be something that we've experienced, and together, and it's just, we've always written it off. So, hanging out, talking with each other, it's a lot of time it's finding stuff out about yourself that you doubt it or whatever, and it just resonates with you, like I said, and then you're just like, gosh damn,
Yeah.
okay, I feel good. I mean, with podcasting, that's done a lot for me, right? Is having on guests talk about their situations, their scenarios, what it was like for them when they got out, the ups, the downs, and all that stuff. And no matter what, like every day you can have a bad day at any moment. It is literally you could wake up and have money in the bank and your cars are running smooth and then get in your car,
Yeah.
what the hell? You get out of the car, freaking tired, coffee spills all over you. I mean, those kind of days are ready to be there. You just, the thing about it is trying to get yourself at a clear mindset before all those things start to pile onto you, because then when it comes on you, it's a travesty and everything, the world's falling on you, even when the coffee spills at that time. You're like, oh, fucking, and it's just like, bro, relax. The coffee spill, just go get yourself another cup of coffee,
Yeah.
But like I said, a lot of times we're not good at clearing our minds. We've always been taught until more of the recent time. I got to imagine even when you're separating out of the military, I can't speak to it because it's been 20 years since I did it. I got to imagine that they're starting to work on things a little better, hopefully, in transitioning these guys getting out. Because they got to realize that they turn a switch on in our heads, right? And
they never
it's
turn
reactive.
it off.
It's a reactive switch. We react to everything. And our reaction is force, right? We always want to fight. We're taught to fight with force in the Marine Corps, and so when we get out, we still kind of have that fight or flight in us all the time, right? We want to, and a lot of people ain't ready for that shit.
Yeah,
in the civilian world.
No, it's definitely crazy because when I got out in 2001 and 2004, there was no end of service brief to help you to reacclimate.
I got out 2004 as well. Yeah,
to reacclimate back to civilian sector, and it's just like, holy shit. And then there's triggers like when I got out of the Marine Corps, some of my triggers is like, all right, so when I was in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and the shit that we saw in Haiti, like a smell, like because they had down in Haiti, if you go down to the marketplace, it smells like a friggin' garbage dump. If you remember back in the early, the early 90s when you had the big garbage dumps and the smell that surround them. Well, that's what what Haiti smelled like, and it was like 100 times worse. But like when I came home and I happened to be driving by a garbage dump back home in Bardstown, where I was from, and it just transported me right back to Haiti, and I started visualizing what I saw there and what we went through, and the triggers are what get you. And you said it, like this podcast, me doing this podcast has helped me. It doesn't eliminate, but it minimizes the struggles that I go through on a day-to-day basis. And you also said go out and be with other like-minded people, which is awesome. Go join the VFW. Go join the AMVETS. Go American Legion. Find a veteran service organization in your area, whether you like horses or you like going backpacking, whatever. Find other like-minded veterans, and they'll help you. They'll help you minimize and start talking about your struggles, because that's what's helped me.
And honestly, don't rely on the VA.
Yeah.
If you're, that's where you're good. The VA is good for a lot of things, but don't rely on them. Rely on your brothers and sisters, those nonprofits out there, the ones that the people that you served with that actually get it, really get it, and you're not just a fucking number to them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and there's plenty of there. So I read something the other day that there's like 45,000, veterans charities.
Oh my gosh! I mean, since I've done this, anywhere from equestrian to book writing to skateboarding to I mean, you name it. If you have a passion out there, There's probably a nonprofit veteran-owned group that is dedicated to it. I mean, we got guys that jump out of planes all the time, and they set up those kind of things: golfing trips, fishing, hunting,
race car driving. I mean, there's a warriors to racers. It's all veterans. You know, they're from the low man on the totem pole all the way up to the crew chief. Everybody's a veteran.
Guitars for vets. You know what I mean? You can go get yourself. You want to play the guitar and learn a guitar. You can get yourself a free guitar as well.
Yep.
Guitar for vets.
Is it 11 classes with guitars for vets?
10 or 11. I know Steiner went through it, but
see what John's got to say, because I know he got some say.
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I know there's so many. You know, PB Abate is a great one. I've done some stuff with, and they've got a bunch. You know, they take people out to Montana. They got writing segments. They've got so there's I mean, you're right. Anything that you like doing, you can find somebody else that wants to do it, and find a group that'll hopefully help you get involved with that. I think one of the things I've come to, one of the charities I was working with, we working to pass this Veterans Outdoor Rehabilitation Act a couple of years ago, and there's tons of evidence that shows that, like, getting your ass off your couch and out in the woods, and it doesn't have to be like out in the woods like being out in the woods was in the in the Marine Corps, right? Like, a nice, comfortable, relatively backpack, food that not an MRE, a sleeping bag that doesn't smell like the ass of 40 million other people. Right?
Isomat.
You can have a fire. You can fish. You can talk. You can and have a good time. But 48 hours in nature, preferably with your phone off, man, it's like worth years worth of meditation and therapy and everything else. All right. So getting and then that's fucking proven, right? There's a thing called the 48-hour effect, or like 72-hour effect. Just getting away from the doom scrolling on your phone and looking at all the assholes on fucking Twitter or wherever, and walking around in the woods, man, does wonders. So
especially with these reels now, where people are watching like 6-second clips and like thousands of them. Imagine how much stuff you got to process in your brain all day as you're scrolling through one reel to the next.
Oh yeah,
man. Disconnecting is huge. I've always found that when I'm kind of at my just ready to fucking I feel like I'm gonna explode inside, and I just feel like my blood's boiling, I go out to a creek that's pretty local to me, and and the water runs by itself. It's just nature. It's just beautiful. Take my shoes off, put my feet in that nice cold water, and sit down, and what a difference that does for me. I mean, I think that we've gotten away so much from nature and really how healing nature can be to us as well, right? I mean, we've industrialized ourselves, city lifed ourselves so much, but going out to somewhere where your phone don't work and you it's just you and the nature, it is great for that mental state. I know for me, I don't even need to go out there with anybody. I like going out there by myself.
Yeah, I'm a very strong advocate about outdoor therapy, and there's nothing like it. Like, even when I was younger, going deer hunting, and I get out there at 0 dark 30, and I'm just waiting for nature to wake up, and there's nothing like that. I mean, you go out there and you say you get in there in your blind or posted up next to a tree at 06 in the morning. Daylight starts creeping in around 06:30, and you listen to the birds start rustling, the squirrels start rustling, and you got a creek nearby that's the water's just flowing, and just listen to nature wake up. And your cell phone's turned off, left in the vehicle or wherever you're staying at. That way you have no interruptions. I mean, it's amazing. So yeah, I love outdoor therapy. I can't speak highly enough of getting out there. And there's an organization in Texas, Project Zero. Their motto is #get out there. because that's what's going to help you get out there and you put yourself out there. There's nothing like going out with a group of military guys and women and sitting around a campfire and just hearing everybody's story. That is so healing. It's amazing. So, well, Mr. John, it's been our pleasure to have you on the show today, and I'm
That's been
definitely
mine.
and when your book comes out, I definitely want to have you back on. And once I get it and I get a chance to read it, I definitely want to have you back on so we can talk more about the book. So if you're an avid reader out there and you love reading books, and this book is based on Mr. John Dailey's life, go out there and order Tough Rugged Bastards. It's on pre-order right now. You can go to his website, jadailey.com, and you can order it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books a Million, and bookshop.org. So you can go on there and order the book. You can either order a hardback copy or you can do a paperback copy. So before we let you go, Mr. John, is there anything else that you want to say or touch on before we let you go?
No, I've had a great time, and yeah, I appreciate talking with both of you guys, and the viewers' questions was really cool. To get that interaction. I'd love to come back on, so just give me a holler. When
I will do. I'll email you my cell phone number and have you text me. That way we can text instead of doing email, because it's a lot easier. And then I'll get you connected with Brian as well, Travis. And then I'm going to send out a mass email with a bunch of different podcasters and say, hey, this is going to be a great guest for your shows. That way we can get you on, get your story out there and talk about the book. So,
cool.
But other than that, man, it was our honor and pleasure to have a Marine Corps legend like yourself on the show with us tonight. So thank you again.
Thank you guys.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi, brother.
Semper Fi.
All right, man. How cool was that?
Man, I love talking to veterans, but when it's a Marine, it's just obviously we got so much more in common with them, right? And our verbiage, our talk is, the
way
same.
different.
So right,
yeah. It's way different when you have a Marine Corps veteran on compared to like an Army veteran or Air Force veteran or Navy veteran. But to have somebody that was an OG in MARSOC, I mean, dude,
bro, I'll tell you what. While I was in, we always looked up to Force Recon and those guys. And I mean, we would see them too. These fools would just be out there running and carrying logs and just, and we'd be like, they're fucking like damn near like doing like laps on us, I mean, I always, for any special forces, really, they are a different kind of beast.
Yeah, different breed.
You got to have a different kind of integrity to yourself, a different kind of discipline. There's a lot that goes into being special forces, because you're really risking your body and your life 100% when you go special forces.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, with his journey, he went 0311, then he went Scout Sniper, then he went Force Recon, and then he was handpicked to be Detachment One of MARSOC. That's
gives me all the little girly feels, dude, because he is sniper too. I mean, and once again, in the Marine Corps, they talked always highly about like snipers and all that stuff. So, and it's not often that you get to talk to a sniper.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, there's not a lot out there, right? I mean, it's not like a big MOS where you got a ton of snipers to go and pull from and talk to. So it's always great getting to hear the inside of, those kind of specialty training that, we all were like always like ooh and ah about.
Yeah. My favorite thing to do though, and this is probably bad on my part, but if I'm out and about and I see another Marine, right, I always ask them what their job was in the Marine Corps. Always. And then they're like, oh, I was a Scout Sniper. I was like, oh yeah, really? Were you? and I start asking them questions because my staff sergeant, he was like this guy, Mr. John Dailey. So staff sergeant, or I think he got to when I knew him, he was staff sergeant Westall, and he used to drive around Camp Lejeune in a CJ7 that was painted like a cow. But this dude was a badass. I mean, just straight up badass. So I learned a lot from him. So, I would ask people, I'm like, oh, what was your MOS? Because you have a primary MOS 0311, then you got your secondary MOS. And a lot of times they're like, well, I was just 0311. I was like, all right, then you wasn't a scout sniper. I don't care. You might have been in a scout sniper platoon, but if you didn't go through school, you were just a spotter, FO. So, there's just, for me,
usually I don't even ask anymore. Like, there's a lot of people out there that want to, bullshit themselves, whatever. I have no problem telling anybody I was a supply dude. You know what I mean? I don't need, I don't need to explain myself to nobody, but yeah, I know some guys get a little wrapped around their MOSs, and they got to go try to act like they were a little more than what they were, but
yeah,
most people read through that bullshit right off rip, dude. Like, when you are in a certain MOS, you can speak your MOS, like A through Z. It's like breaking down the weapon and shit. Like, we were able to break down weapons, no problem. It's same thing with our MOS. You should be able to talk that very good, no matter when you got out.
Yeah. It's like me when people ask me what I did in the Marine Corps, 0311, I was infantry. That's what it says on my DD 214. That's what I did. I don't elaborate. I don't tell, I don't tell them I went to a scout skier school when I was in Bridgeport, California. I didn't tell them that. I don't tell them that I went through survival training. I just don't. I just say I'm 0311 infantry. I'm a ground pounder, bullet sponge, however you want to look at it. That's what I did.
Right.
That was my job. And that's all they need to know. They don't need to, if you were a sniper like Mr. John Dailey, more than likely he's going to say I was 0311. Then he's going to say I was MARSOC. He's not going to elaborate anymore. And I'm the same way. And I know Gunny or Danny was the same way when I talked to him. He's like, why? Because most people are not going to understand. So yeah. But anyway, man, it was a great show tonight, man. Thank you for coming on here and hanging out with me. You are. I'm going to get you connected with Mr. Dailey. Actually, he's still in the green room, so don't hang up when we get off here.
No, I'll get his email.
Yeah, so we can do that. But anyway, guys, I'm going to drop you out of the screen so I can wrap up here.
Yeah.
But no, tonight was a great show. Candace will be back. Tomorrow, Brandon Cooper, Donald Dunn, and Candace will have on another great guest. So tomorrow we have Mr. Eric Dominami. Yeah, I probably screwed that name up again, like always, because I'm a country boy. But he owns Fjord Scotch, which is here. What were you saying, Brian? I see you.
It's Fjord Scotch and it's Dominini.
There we go.
You got to throw it out there, Dominini.
But yeah, so he owns Fjord Scotch, FIOR Scotch, first veteran-owned Scotch company in America, first Black-owned Scotch company in America. So if you love Scotch, go try it out. So we got him coming back on, and then on Thursday we have Mr. Ryan Lertzema coming on as well. So another great week of shows. Candace will be back. Donald and Brandon will be back as well. So guys, be safe out there. Like we always say, we got your six. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your six.